Just to give you the big picture of how the framework and how we came to think conceptually about an approach to valuation. And I just have blissfully a single slide on this, which hopefully you can all see. So if we think of the universe of what we're trying to measure as that big circle on the outside, there are three main groups that you might want to consider in thinking about the impact of your digital work. The one that most people default to is audiences and thinking about measuring audience impact, which is great and important. And I guess the key message we're trying to land there is don't just think about that in terms of big headline reach numbers, but think about what meaningful audience engagement looks like for you.
We did 2 user testing sessions sort of halfway through the making process, and we did those at 2 separate venues. We wanted to choose a kind of tech immersive venue and a dance venue because we knew that they would get different types of audiences. At these user testing sessions, we gathered written questionnaire feedback and we ran a focus group at BOM. This mix of methods allowed us for more kind of communal discussion during the focus groups, where audiences could kind of share individual experiences, because the work is one-to-one, but actually kind of, have a bit more open discussion and dig into some of the themes a little bit more. Whereas the questionnaire lets audiences give obviously more individual answers.
Did you incentivize focus group participation?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think there are different ways of sort of approaching this. User testing was kind of a free experience. And then the idea was that we just invited audiences to come. We made it really clear beforehand how long it might take, because I think obviously coming and seeing an experience and then doing a focus group can be quite time consuming. And I think things like, having water, having tea and coffee, some people couldn't stay for the focus groups. And so I think that's why having a questionnaire, which was like a QR code, or an iPad they could do at the venue, and the focus group meant people could opt in and out for what they could support us with. And we found that actually audiences on the whole were really excited to try something new at a very early stage and to give us that feedback and feel part of the development of that work.
So we worked with the space to create a framework that would allow us to ask the questions we wanted to ask, and worked out the best way to embed that, working out how we can ask people the questions that we want to ask them when we don't really have a captive audience in the sense that we might do if we're in the building. We can't kind of corner people and get them to fill in the forms. We have to kind of embed everything quite early into the project and make sure that all the footprint, if you like, of the project had something that could lead people to giving us the information we wanted to get from them, which included embedding surveys and all the links we had online, including the giving us some reporting and feedback into the messaging that we kind of had within the project. So we talked about on social media or via community networks or direct conversations with people. We'd really push them to give us the feedback that we were after.
Did your thinking about evaluation change through the process? Was there any change as you went along?
I would say there is that, we are very much learning as we go as well with evaluation. And I guess because, as Kerryn says, there were 3 performances at 3 different venues, obviously there was a learning loop that was happening each time replica was in each venue. But I think, there's always a bit of kind of teasing out of specific questions, really thinking through the wording of is this question going to get the sort of information that we need, and, drafting things and redrafting things. So it felt very collaborative.
How you might, or thinking about evaluating digital work with diverse audiences.
Just really practical barrier issues to think about in terms of audience diversity. So if you've got people who've got some sort of disability, how do you make the process of evaluation accessible, whether that's through form design, through physical access to venues if you're doing in-person things and running focus groups and so on. So there's that aspect too. And there can also potentially be language barriers. And even I came across an interesting project that Leicester University is working on, looking at evaluation where you've got neurodivergent audiences, people on the autistic spectrum, and how you might use sort of visual language cues and other ways of getting emotional communication and engagement. So yeah, there's a number of dimensions in which it's really helpful to sort of think through the diversity question.
I would say try and identify a goal for what you're doing, and think about what's most relevant to you, and then find the thing that you can measure that best speaks to that. So for example, if you are creating digital content to add value to existing audience members, for example, by like providing deeper insights into a program, or engaging people in a conversation about their experience at your venue or with your work, on social media, for example, then the metrics, or like the things you might track, might look like the quality of comments that you're getting and the kind of like conversations that might spawn from that. So I think you can decide what's meaningful, and also sometimes give yourself permission not to do everything, because it can be overwhelming and also isn't always helpful to spread yourself too thinly. Lots of us who are working in kind of digital producer roles, you are wearing many hats and doing many things, and there's a real kind of, I think, workload issue there in terms of understandably, evaluation isn't always at the top of your priority list. And so it can feel like it's another thing to do, and it can be quite overwhelming. And I think that's part of what we are trying to do with this work, is to help provide a way into for people, and kind of help break it down, and be a bit transparent as well about like what we are learning, so that hopefully other people can kind of use some of this stuff as well to their benefit.